really a group issue. They as a faculty need to make sure that we have enough AQ faculty. They sort of have to work together. So lots of times they're doing joint research projects, right? Or they're doing something to support their colleagues in their scholarship. They can't just simply say, oh, well, I'm AQ. That means everybody else should be AQ, and I don't have any responsibilities about that. You know, you got to change that thinking and make them see that this is everybody's issue, right? To have the right number of academically qualified faculty. And for us, you know, basically we just say every tenure track faculty member, you could have a few that are master's degree people that have some additional PhD level coursework that are doing scholarship, right? As long as they're publishing articles and so forth. If you have 3 or 4 of those people, that's okay. You can't have 10 or 20, but you can have a few. And then the issue of participating faculty, you can have part-time faculty who are participating. What you need to do is make sure you have the participating faculty definition written out, which says, here are some things people do to be participating faculty. And it doesn't necessarily mean they teach full-time. They may serve on committees. They may advise students. They may do some other things. Everybody, you know, basically when you do that participating definition, you put down, you know, 8 or 10 activities that people do to make them participating. And you don't necessarily have to be a full-time faculty member to get there. Okay, what are some other benefits? You can get good, interesting benchmarking data out of AACSB. Probably the most useful for me is salary data, right? So I can go into the provost and say, look how far behind we are compared to our peers, right? You get, obviously, a lot of information on trends in business education, so they're putting together task forces that come out with interesting reports. But, you know, even a magazine like BizEd that they put out, you know, has some interesting articles in it. Of course, there's all the interesting presentations at all the conferences and workshops, right? So you can borrow ideas from other people based upon sort of plugging into the AACSB network. And, you know, sort of has been already mentioned, it's just a good network to be part of because you're getting all these ideas and you're sort of also getting some confidence in how good you are, right? So you get to compare your situation to the situation in other schools, right? And you find that they're all wrestling with the same problems you are. Okay? And they may have some ideas and they may need some of your ideas. One thing I wanted to mention was we talked about differentiating ourselves with AACSB accreditation. Of course, to do that, you actually need to take some steps, right? You need to make sure that you've got the accredited seal on all your publications and on your website. AACSB very much encourages that. You do that. And the one thing I would say is if you're an accredited school and you're trying to, you know, expand your activities globally with other schools, at least the schools in the U.S., if they know you're accredited or you're about to be accredited, they're not going to bother with due diligence on you. They're going to know right away that you're a good school, right? They're going to be happy to. So you want to avoid a situation where nobody really knows what's going on in AACSB. They're not focusing on AACSB. They're ignoring it for the moment until the next visit. Because you need to really stay current. Because every year the standards are being tweaked, right? So this maintenance report being dumped, that was just a recent change. Okay. You, as the dean, you know, need to be going to at least one meeting a year, say the annual meeting or the dean's meeting. You need to be sending some other people, as was mentioned earlier. It makes it a lot easier for the dean to talk about accreditation issues if somebody has been sent to another meeting, because they sort of, there's a language, a way of thinking that you don't have to bother communicating to that person anymore because they went to that meeting and they heard all about it. So, it really is very beneficial. The other thing is, and Sun Beng talked about the turnover with deans. All right, well, that's everywhere. That's true in the U.S., as it is here, perhaps. And that causes a problem because, I've been on several maintenance visits and so forth, and not all schools do very well. And the biggest problem is they just didn't keep their eye on what was happening with AACSB accreditation. The dean may have come from the outside and may have come from a position in the school where they were not plugged into AACSB accreditation. The dean may have come from the inside, and it was somebody who, just came right from the faculty and didn't worry about these things while they were a faculty member. Okay, and then all of a sudden they're trying to get their head around accreditation, and there's a visit in 2 years or 1 year, right? So this is a real problem, is to not have a bunch of people know what the deal is with accreditation. That don't know that every 5 years there's this maintenance visit. You can't get ready for it in 6 months. Why can't you get ready for it in 6 months? What are the 3 most important things? Strategic planning, faculty qualifications, and assurance of learning. You can't get any of those done in 6 months, right? Those are things, that's why you got to do it every year. So you have to, in the school's culture, you have to establish it that, we're always doing strategic planning, we're always worried about faculty qualifications, we're always doing assurance of learning, right? So that gets accreditation top of mind, and it's not just the dean that's involved, right? That you've got other people involved. So if the dean leaves, that doesn't mean we're back to square zero, right? That means everybody understands that we're still working on this, with the new dean. So a little bit of succession planning, in other words, I think. And, you do that by a combination of things internally, but also making sure you're going to a meeting once a year, sending some other people to a meeting as well, so they get to learn. So you look at your faculty roster and say, now, who has been to an AACSB meeting and who hasn't? Find out those that have not, figure out a meeting to send them to. I know it's expensive, so you're not going to send 20 people every year, but make sure you don't keep sending the same person, right? So that concludes my remarks, and I'll turn it back to James.